Good afternoon. I am Kacie Olson, and this is my Module 12 case study. So if we're looking at this case, we're going to establish some facts here. So what happened is really about a teacher evaluation. Principal informed Mrs. Stevens of his recommendation for non-renewal and provided the evidence to her as through the evaluation process, and she did not agree. And this all took place in the school year, specifically in the classroom and in the principal's office. Right now, currently, the teacher, Mrs. Stevens, and the principal are the only two parties specifically involved, but potentially could add more, such as Board of Education, lawyers, superintendent, union reps. So it could get kind of messy. And what do the other parties involved have to say about it? Well, again, currently it is the principal saying Mrs. Stevens was non-effective in instruction, and Mrs. Stevens claims that the process was unfair and the evaluation is inaccurate, and she may activate her right to involve the law. So as we look at that, knowing legal issues could be involved, let's look at it from both perspectives. First, let's look at this through the perspective of the principal. So has anyone been harmed? Yeah, the principal definitely has to look through the lens of instruction as effective or ineffective of harming or hopefully enhancing student education. And so an ineffective teacher directly links to harming students and the outcome that they have in their educational experience. That goes for families and then other teachers too, as part of that collaborative learning process and culture. So what does the law have to say? Is there an existing action or law that goes along with this? And according to my research, no, the principal is potentially making the right decision, right? So if the teacher is not meeting the contractual needs to provide an effective instruction, then they may be removed from that position. They're not fulfilling their contract in that term. In regards to tenure, specifically in Kansas in 2014, Kansas teacher tenure was repealed. And so that's not an issue specifically in Kansas in regards to this situation, even though it says in the case study it was before tenure. That's just important to note in Kansas. And was there a breach of contract? Again, going back to that, was she an effective teacher as part of the stipulations and the job descriptions of being an educator and not meeting that? Yeah. So again, just a quick note is that the final decision will need to be made by the Board of Education. And that was not put in here as well, that definitely will be involved in this process. So from the perspective of Mrs. Stevens, the teacher, she's seeing it a lot differently. Has anyone been harmed in the action? And I would say potentially, yeah. I mean, it's her job at stake, right? So there's a financial harm that could take place if she potentially loses her job. Is there an action from her? I would say maybe, right? You know, she's claiming that she didn't get the support that is needed. And so possibly, again, from the same research that I've done, laws other than those governing tenure will apply to determine whether a discharge of a teacher is wrongful. So, you know, I don't know, I don't have enough data to know, but it could be that the same process and support was not followed based on the opportunities she should have had. Were the actions discriminatory or harassment? Again, possibly. If she was not given the same opportunities as other teachers in terms of support, guidance, supervision, then potentially it could be discriminatory there. Or if the data was too subjective and didn't have some other data points to show true data, then it could be, again, considered discriminatory, possibly. And again, so looking at them side by side, I can see that there's validity on both sides and also some lacking of evidence on both sides when we look at this from a legal standpoint. So on one hand, you know, there's only observation data that we were given and shown, and so that can be very subjective. The teacher could request the due process to ensure that the right steps were taken or maybe not taken. Again, on the principal side or the school side, you know, met with the teacher more than once. Lack of evidence showed that growth, gave recommendations, and little impact was recorded. Followed the evaluation process. We do know that there was a formal evaluation. So again, you can see some validity on both sides. Lacking evidence, again, the teacher really didn't have a lot of growth data. Teacher did not implement the feedback that was given, and low efficacy was there. On the principal side, the evaluation form was really vague and the data was strictly observation of behavior. So again, you have to dig a little deeper within that, but I can see both sides. To synthesize what we're talking about here, one party believes that the teacher is ineffective and therefore should be removed from her position. And the other party believes that the evaluation is unjust and a process of support was never established. So it's a classic he said, she said situation. Synthesizing those facts again, people, you can see who's currently involved. Right now, potentially it could be district leadership, board, lawyers, but definitely stakeholders of the students are involved, families, teacher partners. Place, you can see we were given the school, but not really sure about any demographics at this point. And programs, public education, and this is involving an evaluation process. So as we review, there's 5 questions here to kind of consider. Could the conflict, the situation, or the decision be damaging to stakeholders? Yes, absolutely. First of all, the teacher, right? Non-renewal could impact her employment and her reputation as an instructor. The students, if she is renewed and she is in fact ineffective, as the data implies, then there could be negative implications for the students, which is the #1 reason why we're in this job. Even possibly the collaborative culture. Again, if she isn't a reflective teacher, as the principal was implying, and it could have negative impacts on that teacher collaboration as a whole. Also, what individual groups have an important stake in the outcome? We've already listed it here, but I've put it again listed. And have all of the relevant stakeholders been consulted? Not yet. Right now, the only 2 parties involved are the teacher and the principal. So there's still more stakeholders that need to get involved and communicated. What can I learn more about the situation? Yes. So I had a long list of things that I would want to know about the situation. And it all really came down to data. How are the students performing on the assessments? Do the students believe they are being supported and challenged? So do we have some of those student interview data? What supports and opportunities have been given to Mrs. Stevens? We just said it was, but what are those specifically? Where were Mrs. Stevens' individual goals? What were they? What were her goals? And where's their growth on her goals? Not just what the principal said she needed to do, but her own professional goals. And then the collaborative culture. What do other teachers around that work with Mrs. Stevens say about how she's reflective and collaborative? Maybe it's just a relationship issue between her and the principal. And do I have enough now to make a decision? I don't think so. Again, I would need a lot more data to make an important decision like this at this time. So what are my options? So I came up with really 3 options. The first one is just pause, maintain the status quo, collect additional data sets to inform the decision better. So basically it's kind of saying, I don't have what I need. We're really not going to do anything right now. Let's just pause and keep being intentional about getting data. Option 2 could be pretty extreme. I could continue forward with the non-renewal process. The evaluation said this, and so I'm going to hit non-renew. I have that option. Option 3 that I would consider would be to say, I still need to collect a lot more data, but right now I do believe that she is being ineffective. And so my recommendation is a growth mindset to say, hey, we're going to put a formal plan of improvement in place just to ensure that and set some pretty clear expectations and working agreements. So as I look through all those and I evaluate, what are the ups and downs, right? The positives and negatives of each. You can see that on each one, there's a lot, right? Pausing could be good because I can get more data, but it could also be detrimental to students if she is ineffective. And the same thing, another year, right? Could happen again. It could be Groundhog's Day all over again. If we move forward, then if she was ineffective, then honestly, the right steps were taken to ensure quality instruction. But there's really not a lot of data. And if it takes the legal process, it might show that she wasn't given the support she needed, or it's inconclusive if she was ineffective or not. And if we look at option 3, a formal plan, it might give her the support she needs. It might be more explicit. It would put a plan into place to closely monitor all of those different data pieces. And that accountability could help with student learning. The negatives, that's going to be a lot of time and energy on a principal or a supervisor to put in. And if she refuses to follow the plan or grow, again, another group of students could be impacted by that. So as I look through all the options, I would recommend option 3 for me personally at this time with the data I was given, implementing a formal plan of improvement. My rationale for that is that there just wasn't enough data in this case study that I was given to be conclusive that she was ineffective, but there also wasn't enough data to know that she didn't get the support she needed since the principal said she did. And so I would need to put a little bit more specifics in place. Formal student learning data was not used in the decision, so we don't know. Maybe the students are being successful. All we have is her behavioral data, which didn't seem, it seems very unlikely that they would be, but we don't know for sure if they weren't being successful. And that's a huge outcome measure that we need to have. And since there was no evidence of teacher growth or reflection, I would make sure that that's explicitly put in the plan to see if, hey, maybe she needs a little bit more accountability along the way, a little bit of more support to help her become a reflective leader. And in summary, there you go. I would need more conclusive evidence of a plan and that it would be closely monitored. So how would I move forward with this implementation? First, I would want to calibrate with district leadership and really get their mind around it. Like, are there any other considerations I thought of? What are our districts and or unions, specifically policies on writing a formal plan? Does the Board of Education need to be notified of the plan? Just really making sure I have all my ducks in a row. And then create the plan for improvement. I would want to identify 3 to 5 key leading indicators that she needs to focus on, and they must be attainable and foundational. At this point where she's at, I don't think this would be kind of a collaborative session yet. It would be really me thinking through those foundational pieces as her instructional leader to say, these need to happen in order for us to ensure that students are successful. And I would want to connect them specifically to the lag data or the student impact data we're hoping to see. Then I would want to make sure to set up a system of measurement. So what data, when, how often, who's going to be accountable, what does it look like, what does it not look like, as specific and explicit as possible. Then again, along with that, once the system is kind of outlined, supporting that schedule for monitoring and supporting. And this would need to be very tight short-term cycles. We can't go months long or even quarters. No. We're thinking week-to-week basis, checking in often or biweekly at the most to make sure we're on track and on time. And if not, what adjustments need to be made. She's going to need lots of high-level accountability coupled with support. At this point, then, this is when we would pull Mrs. Stevens back in and engage in a dialogue to clarify the expectations and then sign that plan to set those working agreements and just make sure all parties are on board. That will be a good paper trail to see, hey, here's what we've agreed to. We're both going to move forward with it and have that dialogue as needed before signatures take place. So I added this section because I think in order to do all of that, I have to be reflective as a leader myself and be careful on who I need to be and what I need to consider before going into this conversation with her. And so what considerations are necessary for the conversation? I need to keep her open and thinking. I don't want her to get defensive. Questions can be defensive. This is definitely going to be a hot topic session with a lot of emotions involved. So I need to meet her where she's at. Is she a data person? I need to speak from that approach. Is she more of an emotional person? I need to connect with her in that way to ensure that we're on the same page and we can be partners in this and that we all want the same thing, and that is success. And so we got to start there. I also need to remember that people don't want to buy solutions to problems that they don't own. So while I'm coming up with this solution here, we have to first get to the root and having her acknowledge that there is a problem, whatever that basis is that we can agree on. Whether she believes it's not enough support, then this is the proof that we're going to give her the support that she needs. So what is that common problem that she can own that we can move forward with? I need to seek to understand and to paraphrase her. And that's going to be very important on making sure that she feels heard and understood. And I make sure I give her that evidence with the paraphrase I give back. Doesn't mean I have to agree with her at all, but if she needs to be heard and understood, that'll also keep her open and thinking. And then who do I need to be for Mrs. Stevens as her? I play different roles. I am her coach, I need to be approachable. I need to be and mediate her thinking, step between her and her thinking. I can't do all the thinking. I need to help build her practice of being a reflective leader. So really asking those questions, pushing her thinking, opening up her thinking, not just telling her what to do, because that is just compliance based and it's not going to build her capacity. My mentor, a close mentor and friend, says, get curious, not furious. So when she says things that I don't agree with or maybe are wrong, I'm going to get curious and pose those questions, not to make her defensive, but to open up her thinking, not to get furious and shut down myself. As her instructional leader, I need to make decisions that are centered on the data. I also need to think through the balancing of educating, support, and monitor. What does she need at all times to get to capacity? And when we center decisions on the data, it's about student learning. That's it. That's the bottom line. That's what we're focusing on. And everything we need to do needs to be pushing that. So keeping that central. And then as her supervisor, here I need to be very credible. This is a formal plan of improvement, and this is no joke. This is what we're going to do and how we're going to do it in order to either see success or maybe part ways. And so I need to be very consistent with her. We're not going to play this game of, oh, it didn't work and excuses. Nope, we're going to be very consistent along the way to either, again, increase that accountability to see success or to think about other options. And again, once again, relentless about student success. That is the why, that is the reason for everything. And I really liked the idea of holding high expectations. That's what this plan is. It's not a threat. It's not a you will do this or else. It's a high expectations. And I'm going to warn that as a leader, I hold this high expectation for all educators because I would hold this same outcome for all students. It shouldn't be a lottery draw, right? It should be by design that all students get quality education. And so I'm going to hold high expectations to that and be relentless in that.